Hello, friends, and welcome to the Bikes or Death podcast. As always, my name is Patrick, and I am your host. And at the beginning of the show, I like to thank my newest patrons. Unfortunately, this week, nobody signed up. So instead, I want to give a shout out to my second longest ever patron. Last week, I gave a shout out to my longest supporter. So this is my second longest supporter. We got Paul D. He has been a member since March 30th, 2019, which is 19 months, I believe. So shout out to Paul D. Appreciate it so much. Thank you for supporting the show for a really long time. It means a lot. If you would like to support the show and help it to continue to grow, I made it easy for you. Just head over to bikesfordeath.com and you'll see options to sign up as a patron, which is a monthly donation. It's a sustaining member, anywhere from like $1 to $10. It really, like whatever. I've said this before, but if everybody that listens to this podcast donated $1 a month, I could pretty much retire from my other job, I think. So it really counts. And also on Patreon, whenever I get to $500 a month, I'm going to start a separate podcast called Shifting Gears that's going to be a patron only podcast as a way to say thank you. So when we get to 500, I'm going to launch that. And we're at like 425 right now. So get in close. Also, you can leave a one-time donation through PayPal. You don't have to have a PayPal account to use it. But if you think a particular episode is good, or you just got a bonus at work, you got a little extra cash, whatever. If you want to just send a one-time donation, it's always appreciated. You can do that on PayPal. And then we just got in some sweet stuff for the web store. So check that out. Not just shirts and stickers and patches anymore. I actually am now carrying Walmart bars, which are those wide drop bars that you're seeing everybody try. I know there's lots of different kinds out there. I just got my hands on these Walmars, and I have the 50s on my Chumba and the 55s on my Fargo. And I love these bars so far. They've been super comfortable. It gives you so many hand positions. And I think maybe it's because I have longer arms. I'm 6'2", so I'm a little bit taller, that having a little bit wider reach is just a more natural position. I have to ask someone with shorter arms how they like it. But if you're interested to check those out, I got them on my web store along with K-Lite packages. So y'all know probably that I've been running K-Lite since the very beginning. I've had mine for 3 or 4 years now with the same Son 28 Dynamo hub. And it's just bulletproof, works really, really well. So I wanted y'all to be able to get those as well. So trying something different on the web store. But hey, if you just want to grab a shirt or a sticker, whatever, it is very appreciated. Every little bit helps. So I'm just a little podcaster over here, trying my best to grow this thing. What I've been doing since the beginning is I just take, the money that I make on Patreon and from donations and stuff, and I invest it in some merchandise and equipment and all that stuff. So just a little old business trying to grow. This may be a good opportunity to actually mention. I've talked a little bit about how I'm going to be growing the show and really try to prioritize this and see if I can turn it into, some sort of my job and my career. So all of your donations really do help a ton. It goes directly into making the podcast better. In fact, maybe this is a good time to mention that I have a new website that's going to be rolling out here in the next couple of weeks or so. And how the website is getting built is really unique. I've been able to hire people who have in the past reached out to me independently. Catherine, in the very beginning, she donated some artwork to Bikes or Death. And it's that landscape design that we use on a lot of our t-shirts. And if you order anything, there's always a postcard with her design in it and a handwritten note. And that was just like super generous. I've sold shirts off her design, and obviously I've given her free stuff to say thank you. But, she didn't want anything. She just wanted to help the show and donate in that way. But now that I'm kind of growing a little bit, I was able to hire her to design the new website. So she's a bike packer. She's a fan of the show, and she designed the new website and got paid this time. And so on the other side of it, a friend that I met on the internet, her name is Alyssa Bell. She reached out to me and offered to do back-end support on the website, technical stuff that I'm not very good at. She does it as a living and just offered to donate her time to kind of help me out in the very beginning. And she's been helping out until recently. I've hired her to actually build the website. So I didn't know this, but apparently you need one person designs it, then it has to be built. And that just happened to be in her wheelhouse. So it's just really cool that I've been able to, with your help, take people who are like either donating or donating their time. And I'm able to take those resources and reinvest them and hire the people that donated. It's like a beautiful full circle thing. And on that note, I might as well give a shout out to my audio guy, Ben Crannell. He again reached out to me. He was like, hey, got some downtime in COVID. If you need any help editing, I love the show. I might as well edit one that I enjoy listening to. So he's come on to kind of help with the workflow. And again, so he started out as just donating time kind of here and there, but he did such a great job that I hired him. So he is now my full-time audio engineer. I'm not sure what his official title is, but he's the guy that goes through and tries to get the volumes and everything sounding good. And all these people are bike packers. All these people are from the community, and I've been able to use your resources, i.e. your money, and reinvest it back into the community. So I wanted to say thank you and let you know that I'm trying to be a good steward of those funds and reinvest them back into the community, into the people. I'm going to be featuring them on the new website as well. So you'll be able to learn a little bit more about them, because this really is becoming a team effort. It's becoming a lot of work, and I need help. So, all right. Well, sorry for the long-winded sales pitch today, but lots going on. I'm excited to share it with y'all. So thank you for indulging me. All right. Well, today's show is brought to you by my friends over at Kuat. I've been an ambassador of them for all of 2020 so far, and truly really love their product. It is so well built. It looks good. And I'm not kidding. Their customer service is second to none. So I want to thank them for coming on as a sponsor. The socially distanced months of 2020 have prompted us to look elsewhere for exercise, for transportation, and for escape. And Kuat just wants me to share a simple message with you. If you are new to bikes, welcome. And if you're returning, welcome back. We've seen a huge uptick in bike sales, accessory sales. We've seen an uptick in just people riding bikes in general. So Kuat just wants to say thank you. So welcome. It is good to have you here, no matter where you came from or how you got here. Thanks for being on Team Bike. And don't forget Kuat, because you love your bike. All right. Well, today's episode is with my friend Erik Binggeser, who you may know as Truemarmalade on the social medias and the Stravas of the world. He's got a lot of followers. Nobody knows how he got them, but I find out on this episode. We go deep into robots, Pokemon Go, wearing padded shorts versus not wearing padded shorts, and his new Studio Ghibli film that he produced for the Swift Campout this year. You may have seen it. It was featured on bikepacking.com as well. But he, being trapped in quarantine, inserted himself into the Studio Ghibli film, riding his bike on a bikepacking trip. It is beautiful. It damn near brought me to tears. And it was really good to catch up with him. I think we planned on probably talking for like an hour and a half. And we go long just because it was just good to catch up with him. You'll hear on this episode that he's been really locked down on quarantine because of diabetes and just doesn't want to die. So he's been locked down. And I saw him right before lockdown when we went on a little Bikes or Death bikepacking trip earlier this year. And then the world locked down, and I haven't seen Erik since. So it's good to catch up. Appreciate him coming on. And that's it. As always, here's Miles Arbor with the Bikes or Death theme song. So let's get to it.
You load up your bike, you ride away from home. You could be with your friends or you could be alone. You ride for a day or maybe more. You just love being in the great outdoors. Everything you need is strapped to your bars, including that new pillow you got from Santa Claus. And then you think, oh shit, shit to yourself. You left that super lightweight tent on the living room shelf. Bikes. Oh, death. Bikes. Oh, death. Podcast.
Erik Binggeser on the Bikes or Death podcast today, all the way from Austin, Texas, holed up in his little apartment or flat or whatever you're in, hiding from the world, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Dude, how you doing?
Good. Holding things together. Spending most of the time inside, obviously. Spend a lot of time on a trainer. I've got really into jump and rope. That's been my new lockdown activity. Obviously, last time we met, we knew we were going to do this show and really wished it could have been under different circumstances. But
yeah,
I don't know. It's just, it rules to see your face and hear your voice coming through my headphones. It feels good. Like you can see me smiling.
Oh, man.
It feels good.
Good. Well, it's nice to touch base with you because like you said, we, I wanted to kind of tell a brief history just so people know how we know each other.
Yeah.
But, so because it's really crazy. I mean, it's kind of coming full circle with when you and I met. Number one, I was going through a lot and still am kind of continue to go through some personal stuff that you got a little bit involved with.
Yeah.
And then also, man, it was like the last hurrah for a lot of us in the bikepacking world, in our little bikepacking community where we got a chance to go and do a trip. And like right after that, like 2 weeks later, COVID hit. Yeah. So it's been crazy, and then since then you've been holed up, and we'll get into this too, probably more so because of your diabetes and your susceptibility to be at an increased risk for COVID. So it's just been nuts. But that's how we met. We met at that first Bikes or Death ride, which was like such a cool event. It was the first one that I ever did, which was a group ride. I didn't know who would come. I didn't know if anyone would show up. It's like you throw a party and you're like, dude, is anybody going to come? And it was like 16 people. It was a great turnout. It was such I was thinking about it, man. And it was such a great time before the world went crazy, before COVID hit and everything just ramped up to like 1,000, that was just such a nice, relaxing weekend. Everybody was so chill.
It was an absolute perfect. Yeah, you phrased it exactly right. Like you doing this thing, unsure who was going to show up. Perfect turnout, good spread of ages and diversity. And, people came from Austin and people came from all over the place. The route was amazing. Great gravel, great camp spot, amazing support from your local shop, right?
Yeah.
Made us breakfast the next day, which was like so choice. Yeah. And totally agree. It was one last beautiful hurrah before oh shit, things are kind of serious now. We need to figure out how we're going to move forwards in a lot of different ways. Yeah.
Yeah. It was so much fun that I turned around and almost immediately planned another one. And then a day later, it was so obvious with COVID. Back then it was hour by hour. It's oh no shit. No, you can't do that. But it was so much fun. But anyway, that we'll get back to them again, hopefully one day in the future. But like you were saying, it's good to see you again because we didn't know each other before that event. And I wanted to kind of start with this since it's how we met, but it also is kind of a neat introduction to you and cycling was Truemarmalade throws up on Instagram, hey, I'm coming to the BOD Campout. Is there a couch I can crash on the night before, whatnot? And I'm like, dude, of course you can crash on my couch. So, I didn't think much about it. And then you hit me up and you were like, okay, so here's what I'm thinking. I'm going to ride my bike from Austin. Then I'm going to sleep. Then we're going to ride the 69 miles from Aggieland. It was Aggieland, my local shop. We'll give them a shout out for supporting that route and the ride and everything. But anyway, yeah, so we did the 69 miles the next day. We did 69 miles back the next, and then you rode home to Austin.
Yeah.
That's how I met you.
Yeah. I totally forgot that it was me just looking for a place to stay. I knew that the weather was going to be good. I wanted to do a dumb long ride, right? Austin to College Station where you're at and where the ride started, it was 135 miles based on my route, noodling between, a bunch of small Texas towns. So yeah, it was ride 130 miles Friday, crash at your place, the ride for the weekend, and then ride 130 miles back on Monday. It was a perfect long weekend. right? It was a good almost 400-mile set, but
Dude, well, I mean, I think it'd be cool to break down that a little bit. Like,
yeah.
One question I get a lot is how to build a route. So, like, whenever you were looking to come to Bryan, which is 130, like, what did you do? And then, like, I'm kind of curious how it went.
Yeah. I am super loyal, devoted, whatever you want to call it, to Strava, honestly. There's a good bit of debate, like Strava versus Ride with GPS versus, whatever other planning sort of things. But the heat map data that Strava has is completely invaluable. Again, I think Ride with GPS recently added this feature, so golf clap, yay. But obviously more people use Strava, so you have more knowledge about, hey, this road I haven't ridden on is bright red on the map versus this one on the side's kind of like hazy blue. I'm going to go with the bright red one. So honestly, it was pull up the heat map, look at the big wide view, Austin to Bryan. I've ridden some bits of it with different, silly cyclocross races or whatever in between. So it was just like, all right, this town and then this town to this town, and then a little bit of Google Street View. If something's questionable or like, oh, I have to go on this road, but no one's ever biked it based on the heat map. Google Street View, check it out. There was nothing super risky.
Was it pretty straightforward on that route?
Yeah. Nothing super risky. I had enough small town stops to fill up my water, roll my 3 bottles, never ran out, plenty of snacks, good bit of gravel on the way.
What do you look for in a route in terms of, are you looking for gravel? Are you looking for safety? Like, what are you prioritizing, like, specifically for that route?
It super depends on the bike, right? Which we're probably going to get into. Can't see it, but there's a lot of them in this apartment. Depends on the bike, and depends like how many miles I've done that week, probably. Or maybe there's a bike I haven't ridden in a while. Like, I haven't taken my single speed cyclocross bike out in forever. Like, I would love to go make a route for that thing. And then you'd focus on like, okay, it's really good at single track. Let's find some of that. That connects, this dirt road to this sort of alleyway to this bit of good gravel. And I know there's like a little pump track section on the side of this road. I'm going to go over and hit that. But for this one, it was like mostly getting to the town, right? That was checkbox number 1. If I can find gravel on the way, cool. I'm rolling with like 48C tires. I can handle whatever. I think it's more being prepared for whatever's going to show up versus, hunting out, not risky, but like different terrain. I'm more about, I'm going to be ready for whatever. If we hit some gravel, tight. If I didn't, it would still be a good ride, especially based on what was happening that weekend. Yeah.
I hear you. Well, I think I'm glad you touched on the heat map stuff because like that's made it almost like cheating. What I do oftentimes, I mean, in Austin, if I go to Austin, right, like you can just have Strava heat maps pulled up and now they have it to where you can, as you're recording and doing your live ride, you can see the heat map in real time. So you can just like, well, I know a lot of cyclists go here, so I'll go this way. And you don't have to have a plan. And I really, really love that, especially like I've noticed in urban areas. I just did one of these 35 miles and like Houston, Woodlands, Spring, and I did it all off, heat maps. And I just was like, okay, there's some single track, there's some gravel. That looks like a river cross or whatever, a stream crossing. We rode on some railroad tracks. I mean, a little bit of everything, the railroad tracks wasn't on heat maps, by the way, but it's really cool to be able to like, just look at where people go frequently and you can easily make a route.
Yeah. And definitely for finding single track stuff. Like it's so obvious on a heat map because you look, let's take Austin, for example. You're like, okay, here's the lake trail. That's the brightest red thing. And then you have like Shoal Creek, Guadalupe, probably the Walnut Creek Trail. And then you're like, what's this like little bit of noodles between this and this? There's like nothing there. And you go look and it's like, oh, it's some bandit trail. It's like a bunch of noodles. Or if you zoom out to like the bigger view of Austin to College Station, halfway there's like the Del Valle motocross track and it's a bunch of noodles from cyclocross races they have there. Or like you look at Bastrop and like there's a mountain bike park over here I never knew. But if you look at the heat map, look for like the crazy noodly bits because that's like you're gonna find the good shit in those, especially if you're in a new city. Like looking at College Station, I was like, hey, what's this thing down here? And you're like, oh, it's this park with the blah blah blah. Yeah. And especially going to Houston, like not great for bikes, but using the heat map, you can figure, okay, of all the shitty roads, this is the least shitty one. I'm going to use that to get from point A to point B. Yeah.
Well, and that's why we went on a railroad, is because it took us on a road that I wasn't willing to ride on. And I was like, you know what? I'll take my chances with a train.
Yeah.
But hey, that's just me. So after that ride, got home feeling great about life until like a week later, 2 weeks later, COVID hit.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I want to talk about you riding with diabetes, because actually you're the first diabetic that I actually know of that I've talked to as a cyclist on the podcast. So I want to spend a little bit of time talking about you riding with diabetes, how that's been, how you manage it. And, I only know of it from you, honestly.
Definitely. I'm type 1 diabetic. I'm 34 years old. I've had it since I was, I think, 14. I guess I'd do like a quick explainer about type 1 diabetes.
Yeah.
Like I've lived with everything's routine for me. Basically, my body can't process sugar in the way that it should. So if we're sitting around, we're just sitting, hanging out, and I just have like a can of Coke and I drink it, all that sugar goes into my body, and my body's like, what the fuck is this? We don't know what to do with this. We can't make insulin to process the carbohydrates in this. Put the sugar into his bloodstream. We're just going to put it in there because we don't know how to process it. Put it in there, put some in his urine, try and get rid of it that way. And then my blood sugar would skyrocket, right? That's when you poke the finger and put it on the thing. And the sort of backwards stereotype that people have about diabetes is, I was like, oh, if you have a cake, are you going to die? If you have ice cream, are you going to die? And it's not quite how it works. So if I have like that can of Coke or a candy bar or an ice cream, I'm not going to die then. I will feel incredibly shitty, right? It's like your blood's turning to syrup. There's so much sugar in it, and you have to pee every half hour. You get headaches, kind of hangover because you're dehydrated, but you get through that. The reason that eating all these sugary things is bad for me is that having a higher average blood sugar, right? 80 to 120 is perfect. 200 is kind of high. 400 is I need to have a sit down and not do anything for a bit. So if over your life as a diabetic, you have a higher average blood sugar, your body will break down quicker than quote normal humans. I don't like using that word, but will break down quicker than the body of someone who doesn't have diabetes. And that's why you see the diabetic socks and diabetics losing their vision and the fingertips, right? It breaks down the tiny blood vessels in your body you have in your fingertips and eyes and the end of your feet. On the opposite side of that is low blood sugar, which I figure a lot of bike packers have felt. If you're on a race, that's what bonking is. Everyone knows what that feels like. It's like, I've used up more energy than my body has. Slam a thing of goo, slam a gummy bears. Dude, it's the same for me. It's just, I have a device that I can use, and there's a graph that tells me when I'm bonking, and an alarm that goes off when I'm bonking. And if I don't fix the bonk, that's when I die, right?
Right.
So if low blood sugar keeps going and keeps going and keeps going, that's when you pass out, coma, and that's when you can die.
So how do you manage this on a ride, on a trip, Like, take me through that.
Other than just keeping on top of my calories that I intake, not much different than someone else. The only times it's gotten a little complicated is if I'm on group rides and maybe I messed up my breakfast or something and my blood sugar's high and we're heading out and we're all getting warmed up and maybe at hour and a half in the ride and I check my blood sugar at a store stop. I'm like, oh, it's 250 or 300. I'm like, that's way too high. So I take some insulin and then maybe it's my turn to pull. So I sit on the front. I'm doing like a zone 4 effort, using all these non-bike packer terms, but like doing really hard work, right? Your heart rate's like 160 to 170.
Even Strava has zone 4 and all that. So yeah.
Same thing can apply if you're riding solo. When I take insulin, I have to be really careful to not overexert because for some reason, and even the endocrinologists that I have don't know why, it compounds the effect that it has. So I've gone from like blood sugar's 300, take a unit and a half, which should bring me down to like 150, 180, which is good. But if I sit on the front and do a pull for 10 minutes, and then the next like half hour later, I'm 47, which is like hand shaky, like, what the fuck is going on? I'm all dizzy. I think that's the only sort of thing that I have to do differently as a type 1 diabetic. It's just the same thing for anyone on a ride. Like, make sure you got food, make sure you got water. I just might have more food, right?
But it's a life or death consequence.
Yeah, that's the only thing. Like, if I run out of food, between small towns on my way to Aggieland cycling, that's a no-go. That's like me calling 911 or a friend being like, hey, can you drive 70 miles and bring me a Snickers? Yeah, it's just me making sure I got backup stuff. Yeah.
Do you ever have to take insulin while you're riding?
So I have an insulin pump. I'm going to pull it out of my pocket and show you because we're on video.
Oh, yeah.
It's this guy. It's connected with a tube.
Yeah. It basically looks like a little iPod.
Yeah, it's like an iPod or a beeper size thing. Yeah. So that is basically acting like my pancreas, right? Your pancreas inside you is giving you little bits of insulin all day. When you eat something or you drink something that has carbohydrates, your pancreas is like, ooh, we got to make some insulin to counteract that. So you digest that so your body can use the calories in that thing. I just have to tell my pump how much I ate. So if I go have like a hamburger, I figure like, all right, the bun's like 25 carbs and I have a pile of fries. So that's like kind of a lot, like 40 carbs. And then I just type that into the pump. It does the math. It goes boop boop and pumps the insulin into my stomach. Like it's, little doobly right there.
Yeah.
Which like kind of feels like the future. Yeah.
We're talking about, it's interesting how we're talking about technology, both like with the heat maps and making it super easy to just find like pretty easy routes or, map from one town to the next pretty easily. And I'm thinking about a diabetic, 30 or 40 or whatever years ago that doesn't have this technology
For me, when I was 14, I was doing like 2 shots a day manually, right? On a super strict diet. And then when I got the pump, it's like, you can eat whatever you want. Just stay on top of your shit.
So when did you get the pump?
I think right after I left high school. So I would have been like 2000, maybe second year of college, like 2006-ish. Yeah.
So most of your life you've had the pump. How did that change your life? Did that have like a defining change?
You mean diabetes or the pump?
A turning point in your life? No, the pump. Being able to manage it more easily. Did that open up? Because like, I mean, this is completely different, but I suffered from terrible anxiety and it kept me from so many things. And once I got under control, it was like this whole new world opened up to me. So I was kind of putting myself in your shoes a little.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. And that also aligns with, as you said, like technology and forward progress and tools that we have today that people didn't have even 5 years ago or 10 years ago. I would probably not be doing the sort of riding that I do/did if I didn't have the pump. If I had to go on every ride carrying a bottle of insulin and a syringe and like doing the math by hand, like fuck that sucks. And even more so, I used to have like an implant that would read my blood sugar every 5 minutes and send that to my watch. So if I'm on a ride, I can just like look at my wrist, be like, oh, I'm 103. I got some hills coming up. I should have half a Cliff Bar maybe, or like look at your watch. I feel like I'm 62, and that did not exist.
I love it, man. I mean, it's cool. Yeah, I mean, technology is awesome, but I think what's equally awesome about it is you utilizing that technology to. I mean, it's allowing you to ride your bike from your house to my house and go and do a 400-mile ride. And I'm just wondering how many people have type 1 diabetes that are using it as an excuse. And I'm not trying to call anybody out, but I love to, it's good to have examples of, hey, here's a guy with diabetes that can go and ride 400 miles and do all kinds of crazy epic shit. And yeah, I mean, it's cool, man.
Yeah, there's definitely things that still hold me back, like totally in my mind, right? Diabetics have climbed Everest and ran, done the Tour Divide and raced across America and anything you can think of, right? But there is still a part of it, I'd be a little hesitant to do like a cross-country tour because it would mean that's like weeks or months or whatever. It would mean bringing a certain amount of extra stuff, the extra sort of worrying about yeah, running out of food. Like I don't know if I'd ever like ride to South America or any of these super crazy, across Patagonia, Atacama Desert, whatever. Like that's probably a no-go for me. Even though like if they run out of food, they also die. But yeah, like we're both relying on calories to stay alive. But for some reason, the way I think about it, it's a little different. But also like, again, it is weird now because like can't really go do these things because of COVID and shit. But like I was planning on like, did 400 miles in a weekend, and then started getting into doing randonneuring stuff, which is like, hey, let's go do a double century in a day. And then you do like a 400K and then a 600K and all these sorts of longer things as a kind of lead up to, hey, I have a friend in Missoula, Montana. I don't really want to drive or get on a plane. I'm going to ride my bike there, which like, yeah, still want to do someday. Shout out to Allie Mabry, one of my oldest friends. Like,
oh, Allie. Yeah, we made that connection. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Shout out to
Allie
Allie.
Mabry for sure. Really want to ride my bike. Like I have planned that route using Strava heat maps and Street View, like going this way on the adventure cycling route and then up the Tour Divide and then hop over and then you're there in Missoula.
Damn, son. I got some friends up there I want to meet, or I want to go hang out with. So someday Truemarmalade ride. What do you miss more, going on bikepacking trips or going on Pokemon Go rides?
I mean, I can still do Pokemon Go rides. I just do them at night. Like, again, depending on how late we go, like we can go for a couple hours or whatever. I don't give a shit. But like, I might go ride around tonight, that kind of stuff I just do when I know there's less people out, both like, so I won't get seen and I won't see other people acting a fool and get all pissed off in my head. And yeah, it's just, I don't know, when the streets are quiet, like proper quiet at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday night, it's nice to go noodle around and catch some stuff.
I'm glad you are getting out. I've seen a little bit where you've kind of gone off and done a little bit of riding solo and whatnot, but like...
Yeah, I have been riding outside, but I made my Strava private. Like all the rides default to private. So that like, I don't know, when I do that shit, like it's my business, right? Also, no one gives a fuck. Like who's going to kudo me going and doing 40 miles of dumb Pokemon Go stuff at 2 a.m. versus, actually, I did a ride. That's why I got this fantastic tan line still. I did a ride to Colony, Texas. It was a Pokemon Go thing, but a couple Saturdays ago during the day. And that was my first ride outside during the day since end of March, probably. And made me realize like, yo, if you don't go outside, your base tan goes away. My entire arm peeled skin. I got so sunburned. It was awful. Yeah. And also, like, if you're careful with your route, you also don't see anybody. Like, I didn't see a single cyclist. It was a 139-mile round trip. Like, I had to go down and flip a certain Pokemon gym and then ride back. Which, yeah, we should get into the Pokemon Go stuff, too.
We should. But I'm really glad that you went on a ride and got out, because I know obviously you have a serious health concern, but mental health and physical health and all those things are also important. And so figuring out how to manage that with a pandemic has been stressful for a lot of people. So how was it? How was it to get outside and go stretch your legs?
Doing it during the day was weird because, again, first time I'd been outside riding a bike since March. I had, I think, 6 liters of water with me, like 10 Cliff Bars, thing of rice. Like, the plan was no store stops. Don't risk anything going wrong. I don't want to have to call for help. I don't want to have to touch or be near 100 feet with another person. So, like, everything went off without any problems. No flats, no mechanicals. Had plenty of water left at the end. Honestly, I listened to a bunch of Bikes or Death shows on the ride. Like,
right on, dude.
I mean, like, same as when I rode to Bryan, right? Like, I listened to your podcast the whole way there just to, like, get amped for it. No, super boring East Texas roads. But, yeah, something with the sun. And that was a ride that I made public on Strava. It was, like, social media shit. Who gives a fuck? It's internet nonsense, whatever. But like my following on Strava is a lot different than Instagram. Like people comment and ask questions, and we have discussions on Strava that for whatever reason don't happen on Instagram. And when I put this ride up and made it public, I had, I don't know, 20 or 30 people being like, yo, dude, good to see you outside. Glad you're being safe. Like, glad to know. I did the whole ride with a mask on, like around just down below my nose so I could, not fog up my glasses when I'm riding, but like it's there. Pull it up in a second. It was nice. But at the same time, like, I'm not like planning the next one super quick. I did it. It was mostly to go do the dumb Pokemon bullshit.
Which might answer my other question about which one do you miss most, Pokemoning or bikepacking? And you planned your first trip as a Pokemon Go adventure, so maybe that answers the question.
I mean, I have a lot more big bikepacking trips that I've done the routes for. I don't know. Again, people do all sorts of crazy long rides across deserts, carrying all their gear, 10 liters of water, 20 days of food. But yeah, it feels weird for me to go do like ride to Bastrop Camp, then ride to Sam Houston Camp, then ride down to Houston Camp, then, whatever over in between, and put that up in this country, in this state now. There's a certain like privilege, maybe an iffy word for it, but like that me as a person, as this person at this age, this demographic, feeling that like I can just go do this thing while so many people either can't or could but are choosing not to, or are like fucking sick or dead because of someone else just fucking around, right? So that's a big part of why when I had been riding outside, dumb Pokemon Go stuff at night, I just keep that private. It's like I log it because I like keeping track of miles and data and all this shit. But like, I don't want to brag about any of these things.
I made all of my Strava private about 2 years ago, just because it's like there's so much of my life that is on the internet. You can listen to me talk for hours. I put stupid shit on Instagram, but like where I go and like where I sleep that night or whatever is my business,
especially with camping.
And like people, It's funny because we've been talking about heat maps a lot, but I get asked questions a lot, and so I'll address this just for fun about specifically on the restaurant loop. We mention in there that there's a hidden lake, or a secret spot or something like that. And I haven't got like a lot of hate, but like some comments about, oh, that's lame, bro. And, all this kind of stuff. It's like, all you have to do is go on Strava heat maps and zoom in. And like, you're not going to see mine because mine's private, but a lot of other people's is public. And that's another reason why I like mine private, because I'm not leaving that imprint on whatever, a spot that I went to or whatever. But like, also it's good to have it public so you get all that data. But luckily, like you said, there's plenty of people sharing their data, so we don't need to be one of them.
And when you're planning routes, especially long ones between different towns, you can use the heat map to be like, oh, here's the corner store. If the red line goes straight past the town, but there's one up over and then a like noodle, like, oh, that's where the corner store is. Make sure you take the left and the right, then the left. Yeah. I don't know why, but I went back and looked at that article recently and saw the comments. They're like, people mad at you mentioning a secret spot and then also mentioning that it's secret but not telling them where it is. Like, no, it's not how it works.
I've heard from other route builders, and I'm no master route builder. I mean, I threw that one out there that route is cool. I'm not going to dog it. It's cool because there's 8 million people that live within a 100-mile radius of Sam Houston National Forest, and it serves as a tool, as a gateway for people to find easy gravel to go and ride and do an easy bikepacking trip. So it's great, and it serves that purpose. But like, it's not the route creator's job to tell you where to sleep, where to eat, where to poop, where to do all these things. I mean, here's a route, the route goes, you figure some shit out on your own, I mean, like, have some adventure about it. I think, and so it's not about like being super secretive, but that's part of the fun, is like going and figuring it out for yourself, I mean, it's bike packing still. And so I don't know, whatever ethos that is that I'm trying to hold to. It's just, anyway, it's the internet, so I don't worry about it too much.
That idea is perfect, right? That way of approaching it very much helps here's the first step. I know these roads are good. Here's a store if you need it. Here's another store. If you can't make it between those in one night, you're going to have to figure that out. And you will be better for that, right? If you I have to shit and I'm 7 miles from this thing or that thing, do I get on a bike or do I just go behind a tree? You have learned, yeah, that's the perfect way to approach it. Yeah. Set it up and bikepacking.com. Amazing. All the routes, some are harder than others and some have more details or less details, but anyone doing those things will be more experienced afterwards, more knowledgeable, and more prepared to approach also new things and approach other people about bringing them into the, bike packing as a hobby or lifestyle type of thing. Yeah.
There's so many technologies that we've touched on that make accessibility easy and anybody can do it. And so, yeah, here's a route. Go ride it, figure out the rest. That's just my 2 cents.
No, same here.
All right, dude. So one thing that I was again, I didn't know you. You were some guy on the internet with a shit ton of Instagram followers. And I was like, all right, Truemarmalade's coming. I don't know what that means. He looks cool. But so I think there's 2 questions there is, where did Truemarmalade come from? And how the fuck did you get all those followers?
Honestly, the Truemarmalade question is one of my favorites because it is me everywhere. There's no other Truemarmalade. I am that on every social network. I have always been. I grew up being really into reading books. Would go to the library, get stack of 10, finish them in a week sort of thing. All the way up through, I guess, maybe middle school is around when maybe my family got the internet and AOL Instant Messenger. When you signed up, you had to pick a handle. You got to pick your screen name. And at the time, I had just gotten a book, which was the Dictionary of Slang. And if you imagine Urban Dictionary, the entirety, but printed out in a book, I'm 3 or 4 inches thick, 1,000 pages book of slang, all slang through history, all this sorts of anything you want to look up, it's in there. And flipping through it, I just found Truemarmalade, which is from early 19th century. It's a play on the words, the real jam. And you'd use it yo, that Sam Houston restaurant loop was the real jam. Bikes or Death is the real jam. Yo, us talking right now is the Truemarmalade. It is the real jam. And
it's the purest of the pure.
Yeah, this is really good. Which maybe me as a 7th grader was ooh, I'm gonna pick this as my handle and then I'm gonna be really good. But it was mostly just liking how the word sounded. And it's weird. It means nothing to somebody who doesn't know, right? There's no cultural association to it, right? Truemarmalade.
No.
That's just what it is. Yeah.
But it just stands out.
It just stands out. And anytime there's a new social network, I try and hop on and claim it. And in terms of Instagram and everything.
Yeah, because the one thing I noticed about your Instagram was you have 50 something thousand followers, but the engagement was low. So I actually asked you about this whenever we met the first time.
That was we were in a hotel room or something, and we were just shooting this shit, basically this podcast but unrecorded, right?
Yeah.
So in a TLDR sort of way, robots is the answer to that. Social media robots, tying into the whole tech and enjoying knowing how things work, probably why bikes appeal to me, and trying new stuff, diabetes equipment, camera gear, computer things, finding efficient ways to perform actions. I had a production artist gig, I think 5 or 6 years ago, which was full days of removing the green screen background from photographs so that they could then be composed into different scenes. It didn't take very long for me to realize that I'm doing the same 7 clicks in Photoshop every time. Instead of me moving my arm to, menu this and click and boom, there's got to be a better way. Looked up, hey, how do you automate a computer? Then in that day, figured out how to do a week's worth of work in an afternoon. Made a little robot to do it, right? Then realized if I can make the mouse move around and click in Photoshop, like what else can I make it click on? And I realized like, oh, I can make it go to Instagram.com/tagged/cycling, or at this point, like /bikepacking, load up every photo that's tagged with, bikepacking, go to the most recent, click on it and like it. Run that as a loop every 30 seconds, 24 hours a day. And if you do that for 4 years, you get 50,000 followers. But then eventually Instagram figures out that like, I'm not the only person doing this. There are people much smarter than me that do it much more efficiently, that figure like, hey, they can tell if it's every 30 seconds. That's kind of a robot thing. So let's put a random number in here for the wait time so it's more variable and blah, blah, blah. Eventually they fix their shit so none of it works anymore, right? I made these fun social media robots and then they broke. So there was a time 2 or 3 years ago where my photos would get 800,000 likes, right? Because me as my account is going and reminding people that I exist, right? If you post a photo, hey, it might have hit one of yours if you were putting stuff on Instagram before we met, right? You post a photo, you say, hey, who's this Truemarmalade that liked this picture of my bike against a wall? And then you go to my account, you see like, oh, they also post pictures of bikes against walls. I'm going to like one of their photos, or I'm going to follow them. And that building up over time, yeah, it's something that anybody can do. You just sit at a computer and like photos. It's the same shit, but I made robots to do it. Since they broke, I don't really care about increasing the number, right? It was a fun game back in the day.
Right.
I satisfied the curiosity of that, right? Checked off that box of figuring out how the system works, exploiting it, and then breaking it. And now I have 50 whatever thousand followers that slowly go down every day. At one point it was like 65-ish, I think. Every day I lose like 20. Yeah.
When we met in February, you said, I think you were at 54 and you were like, and it's going down every day. And I was curious if like it had started going back up, if like your followership had like been exposed to like this new, I don't know, and like it started to like kind of equilibrium. And
yeah, there was definitely a boost from the like Studio Ghibli video. I got like 200 extra followers in a day from that. But overall, yeah, it's just slowly going down. And I don't know, if I get 200 likes on a photo, it's a good photo. So you can use that to gauge how many, quote, real people are still following me versus maybe accounts that existed back when I, my robot liked one of their pictures and now they don't use Instagram anymore or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, that's a super easy way to tell if somebody's legit on Instagram. If they might have 100,000 followers, but 30 likes on a picture, like that's definitely some shady shit going on. So yeah, this is me admitting to some shady shit that I did back in the day, but I don't know. It was fun.
Admitting to some shady shit. You right? Just played with the fucking robots, man.
But honestly, like it was really helpful. Like it has, admittedly, I've gotten free shit from bike companies because of that. We probably wouldn't be having this conversation if I had 200 followers. Maybe. Hopefully we would, because like maybe. I would still Hopefully have good pictures or whatever, but like there's definitely connections that I've made because of social media that I wouldn't have if I had not done this silly robot thing. Yeah.
Well, like the interesting thing about it is not that you have a lot of followers, right?
Yeah.
Like at first someone would look at that and they'd be like, oh, this guy's got a lot of followers. And so it makes you like interested. It says, okay, well, what is he doing? Let me check him out, blah, blah, blah. But like the interesting thing about it is you, like your mind, the way it works, you're just like, oh, I'm doing this edit. Okay, where else can I apply this same principle? Oh, I could do a social media. Let me just see if I can. But it's just the way your mind works. It's let me see if I can insert myself into a Studio Ghibli, film. Let me just see. So it speaks to you as a person. Like it's not, I don't know, it's not like shady shit. It's just like, this is Eric. Eric tinkers. He figures out stuff. He plays with stuff.
Yeah.
And he doesn't look at it in the same way that I might look at it. I would never think to do that. But that's what I love about meeting new people and getting to talk to them is like, I don't care how many followers you have. I think it's more interesting and more, fun that you like.
How?
Yeah. That's like, there's a story behind it. It's like, I didn't take ass shots or whatever, pictures of my booty for, whatever.
Hey, if it works, it works, like, but it wouldn't work for me.
Yeah.
Right?
We all have our processes.
Yeah.
Some people have to do that and some people have to get robots, but it all,
You're absolutely right with the tinkering nature. I made any social media site that I'm on, I have a robot for it, right? Like expanding on it a little bit, like once I figured out, it works on Instagram, where else can it work? Strava was the next one. Instagram has a rate limit. If you like X number of photos within, 1 hour, they block your account for 24 hours. They're like, whoa, slow down. That's too much. Strava didn't in 2017. I don't remember if anybody remembers what happened to Strava in 2017, but it broke because of me and my robots, because I was running, I think at one time, 12 instances of, and I think each one was giving 5 kudos a second. It was in the span of a week, I gave like 1 million kudos on Strava.
Wow.
To the point where their team emailed me what's going on with this? But also, because the way I did it, the URLs for clubs on Strava is just like a 6-digit number. So I did strava.com/clubs/generate random number 0 to 1 million or whatever, plug it in. We'll load up a random club. It ended up exposing a vulnerability where if you, having a private Strava account, are a member of a public club, every activity you post shows up in that public club. So me, not being an approved follower of you, would give you a kudo with a private account. And you're like, who the fuck is this Erik Binggeser from Austin, Texas? Did they hack my account? I'm private. For a while, when you typed Erik Binggeser into Google, it would autocomplete Strava hacker, which is so hilarious to me. Obviously, eventually Strava fixed this, right? Like they got so many complaints about this thing where it's like, yeah, duh. Like, how did you guys not catch this super obvious thing? Same with
hey, you know what, Eric? They didn't take 3 days to sit on it. They finished Strava and they said, you know what, guys, it's good. Let's just throw it out there. And then Eric comes along. He's like, no, bitches, y'all should have spent some time.
I'm going to find a way to break your shit a little bit.
Yeah.
Eventually they fixed that. They fixed heat maps around military zones, which y'all, how do you fuck that up too? Put a rate limit in, now it's, I don't know, whatever number of kudos an hour, but via tinkering and experimenting and testing the limits of stuff, whether it's computers, social networks, services, or bicycles, or your body. Let's try these different things and see if you can make it better or more efficient, or you push it too far and it breaks.
That's what I was thinking. Strava owes you. You help them be better.
Yeah, there's no way to put obviously not a monetary value or any sort of percentage or anything, but what if someone who thought they had a private account had their activities seen by somebody who wanted to impose harm upon them, and now they know where they live because they can see their little route? These are speculations I would never want to make, but it's this is something they should have anticipated. I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of funny.
Yeah, the experimenting and tinkering.
But again, it speaks to you as a person, your uniqueness. And we already said that you're a fan of Strava. So this isn't bashing Strava.
Absolutely not.
You love Strava, your team Strava. So it's just, it is what it is. They had some holes in their wall.
The metaphor for it. Yeah. Whatever it is. Yeah. And this was back in 2017, right?
Yeah, that wasn't that long ago.
Yeah. In 2017, I have the most kudoed ride on all of Strava for the year 2017 because of these robots.
Which one is it?
If you Google just most kudoed ride Strava, it probably shows up. It was written up in, I think, Bicycling Mag. Some website wrote about it. And it is fully me riding a Scott Big Ed fat bike for like 30-something miles at 8 miles an hour playing Pokemon Go. And it has like...
Oh, I'm finding it right now. The most kudoed activity on Strava in 2017 was...
It has like 7,000 or 8,000 kudos, and it's the dumbest ride. And I feel like that so perfectly encapsulates the... Yo, you don't need to be pumping out sick watts to get appeal. Because, like, again, I didn't buy the kudos. You can't buy kudos on Strava. I didn't buy any of my followers on Instagram. All I did was remind somebody that I exist. And they choose to go look at it. And they choose to like a photo. They chose to give a kudo on this absurd ride.
Almost 7,000 kudos.
Almost 7,000? I mean, 6,900 is pretty nice, too.
Yeah, I like 69. Well, it's actually closer to 6,900 because it's 6,943. So if we were going to round that, it would be to 6,900. I like it.
Yeah, it's just a fun thing to play with. It's another thing to experiment. I learned a lot from it. Definitely used it in some professional circumstances, right? For specific social media campaigns. But yeah, just tinker with whatever it is in your life that you can tinker with. And maybe you'll learn something.
All right. So did you have anything else you wanted to say about Pokemon Go? Because I know that's like...
it is the only video game that I play.
Is there like a small group of like hardcore Pokemon Go cyclists that I'm like unaware of? Like you're part of some like big subculture, or are you just like a wild man out there, a bearded wizard in the night going through the streets of Austin looking for Pokemon battles?
I wouldn't say a big group of cyclists, but there is both on the east side of Austin where I live, like the East Side Crew, where when there are certain raid days happening, where here's a big boss, we got to get all of our friends together to beat this big boss because one account can't do it on its own. We would get on our bikes and hop between them, both because it was faster than cars and just because it was more fun. Like, your squad rolling around the east side, like on 10 different kinds of like 3 shitty Walmart whatevers, 1 BMX bike, me on some titanium nonsense, whatever the fuck, like super good vibes. Early on in the game, there used to be like super hacked together maps that would show you where rare Pokemon were. And me and a very good friend of mine, Carl, who is also a hardcore player, and hardcore meaning like top 0.1% of people in the world. I certainly am, and he is as well. We would pull up the map and be like...
Wait, did you say you're in the top 1% too?
Top 0.1%.
0.1%. Holy shit.
It's tough to gauge it, whether you go by like experience points or catches. But yeah, I would bet like real money that I'm in that tiny little sliver. But Carl and I would pull up the map and be like, all right, we're at Congress and 6. There's a 100% Chansey up at Shoal Creek and 45th. It's going to despawn in 23 minutes if we take like this route to this route and then go up here. And like, all right, you pull for this part. And it would be like us on a Sunday racing across Austin to catch rare Pokemon. And I feel like if the game was exactly what it is, but you didn't have to go out and do the shit, like go out to catch things, I would have no interest in it, right? It being wrapped in Pokemon as an intellectual property has some appeal to me. You know, games came out when I was in middle school. I've played all of them, but it's more about, especially playing on a bike, going to specific locations in your town or other towns, tiny small towns in Texas, whatever, to find different stuff, whether it's like a gym that you want to take or a rare thing you've been looking for and you can catch it. You know, the game came out and everyone was like, it's augmented reality because you can hold your phone up and look through it and throw to catch it. But like hardcore players never use that because it's more difficult. But also I feel like the real augmented reality that it is how it introduces you to new parts of your city. All the stuff in the game, like gyms and stops that you get items from, are all points of interest. Libraries, churches, post offices, notable businesses, but especially like street art, especially in Austin. There are a lot of great murals that are stuff in the game Pokemon Go that any player would be like, oh, I need some more Pokeballs. I got to go over to this. It's a mural of that. Okay, I'm going to go this street and go find it. And they find something new about their neighborhood. Or maybe the stop is a cafe they've never been to. And they go to get whatever shit in Pokemon Go. But then they like see the cafe and they think it's interesting. They go get a coffee. It's any new town. Dude, any new town that I'm in, pull the game up. All right, the post office is there. Library's back there. Oh, there's a restaurant over here that's got a fancy sculpture out front of it. Let's go check that out. Right? That's what I love most about the game. Collecting stuff, fine. But it's like discovering the world is super fun. Yeah.
Well, it's a reason to explore different parts of your same city. We all get in the habit of like a routine, a route. We talked about a lot about routes, right? Like, oh, here's the route I do. Here's my 10-mile route, my 15, my 50, like all these things. And you're like just on your route. And so you don't go on all these side streets. And that's one thing I know. Actually, you rode all the streets in Sam Houston National Forest. I just remembered that. I was thinking about.
I made the route for it. I didn't ride it.
Oh,
I made the route on
okay.
Strava. I didn't ride it though, because I made it like right when lockdown happened. And I was like, this is on the to-do list.
Oh, bummer.
So, sorry for the letdown.
Yeah.
But yeah,
all right.
That's a for sure to do. But you're absolutely right. Like discovering new stuff. And I do like the filling in the map kind of thing. God, can't remember the dude's name. He rode every...
Aaron
Yes.
Chamberlain.
He rode every street in Austin.
Yep.
Right? Last year.
Yep.
Just finished riding around all of Texas, which is... I'm using a mind-blowing gesture, like insane. Like looking at that route, it's a noodly weird outline of Texas. But like, I can't imagine the things that he discovered riding both every street in the town that he's probably lived in for a while and's been very familiar with. And also a state that he's lived in probably his whole life, but never had a reason to ride on these roads. And Pokemon Go is a reason, super dumb, but like, I love it. It's a childish, lovely, wonderful thing. It brings me nothing but joy. Yeah.
And that's all it should do, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I like that about it. I like that about you, that you do it. Like, I love exploring on a bicycle. You know, I mean, I just did that urban exploration ride, and you will never learn your city better than you will by riding your bike and really getting lost and seeing what's out there. And I don't play Pokemon Go when I do it, but I intentionally make it a point to go down this road. And that's one reason I also made Strava private, is to stop caring about, you know, was I faster on this segment as somebody else? It's like, no, I don't want to give a shit about that. I want to make sure that I explored this gravel road that was down here that I never went down it before, because I was always on this segment or whatever, you know? So like, yeah.
Really, that's exactly how it feels. Yeah.
I got to tell you before I forget that I'm actually headed to Austin tomorrow to interview Aaron Chamberlain.
Nice. That's going to be a good one. Bring my shirt.
Okay, good reminder. It's funny because I totally forgot your shirt, but I was like thinking, okay, dude, this time you 100% have to bring a sticker, because I don't have my own inventory. I have a friend of mine that manages inventory to shipping and stuff, because you don't want me, ADD boy, to like be managing shipping. I tried it in the beginning and it wasn't pretty. So yeah. But anyway, I don't even have my own inventory. So a lot of times I forget to like bring stickers places and stuff. But yeah, I need to sticker your van. And I need to bring your fucking shirt. I just hung it up in my closet because I'm moving to a new house. So like I just hung it up in my closet.
And you're like,
but
what the fuck?
I'm gonna miss it, man. That every time I like go in my closet, I have this like reminder of Eric from when you like came and did that trip. So, but anyway, yeah, I had to mention I'm excited to head up there and interview Aaron tomorrow. Wow, podcasty.
You're a busy man. Yeah.
Okay, so you have been locked down, quarantined, you know, pretty well, really isolating.
Pretty hard. Yeah.
And One thing that I was thinking about that's kind of interesting is what has been produced by that forced lockdown. And one of them is this film that you created, which is the reason. I mean, we've talked about doing a podcast, but whenever I saw that film, it really hit me. And let's just actually say right now what the film is, and people should probably push pause and head to your Instagram. So why don't you say real quick what it is and where they can find it so they can push pause and go watch it real quick.
It was my entry to a contest held by Swift Industries. Every year they do a Swift Campout, which is like get your local crew together, your bikepacking squad, go to a state park or campground or whatever, take pictures, use our hashtag, whatever, promote bikepacking because it's awesome, which we both agree, and everyone listening probably agrees. It's awesome. I've done the Swift Campout last year and the year before with the Austin crew. We have a couple of good local sites, but this year, obviously, it'd be, while some countries at the time were doing a much better job and you could get a crew together and go camp, they obviously couldn't promote it like they used to. So they decided, hey, let's do a contest. If it's safe where you are, go camp, make a little video about it, 3 to 5 minutes long, whatever kind of music or no music or editing format you want to do. Winner gets some bags and so on from all these different companies and repost it on our social channels. And I saw that and I was like, I should do a thing. I just finished building a very large green screen studio in my apartment, both just as like a quarantine project, and became obvious that like I got to keep making stuff. Making this infrastructure improvement will help me be able to keep making stuff. So I filmed me riding on a set of bike rollers on one of my camping bikes, and then used After Effects to compose me into a series of scenes from Studio Ghibli movies, set to some, wonderful Totoro lo-fi sort of song.
The music was spot on.
Go to my Instagram, which is Truemarmalade. If you scroll down, it's probably still there, or hit the like IGTV button, and it'll be in there. It's like 3.5 minutes long. Sound on is very important. If you can watch it on a TV, that's good, or like turn your phone sideways to get the full screen. But hit pause now. Okay, you're back. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Hopefully it, brought some sort of emotion, whether you have a connection with the Studio Ghibli films, or just like good lo-fi music, or like this desire to, yes, we're stuck inside, but we can still make things, whether you don't have After Effects skills or a huge green screen, like you can make stuff. It doesn't need to be fancy. You can still make stuff and inspire. And this sort of project was just so much fun to make. I learned so much, like new skills learning it. And
did you have a goal? Like you were just talking about, I hope you, got this out of it, or maybe that. Like, did you go into it with any kind of like, I want to create this, or you were just like, I'm going to create a video and I don't, you know what I'm saying? Like,
it definitely didn't start out as complicated as it ended up being. I knew the concept, wanted to put myself into movie scenes. Initially, the idea was using scenes from Disney movies because the Disney animatics or something, like they put a bunch of short videos on Disney Plus where it's just like good sound design with landscape shots from their films. And I was like, oh, I can put myself into that. It ended up somewhere in the first week of working on it, I was like, these clips are too hard to work on. I guess I probably saw like a Studio Ghibli GIF or something, inspired by something, and then realized like most of the shots in Studio Ghibli movies are perpendicular to the subject. It's just going right sideways across the screen. The frame rate is half, so it's less work to like cut out around things. And also I really felt that like it would connect with people on a different kind of way than Disney movies would. Did not set out for it to get the number of views it did or inspire people the way that it did. It was definitely a project for the sake of making a project. Even if there was no contest, or like, again, disclaimer, like I got second, the video that won absolutely deserved it, right? Beautiful story that they told, much more inspiring than mine. Mine might have more rewatchability, but the winner was so good and inspiring. And like I didn't set out with the goal of winning anything. Like, hey, I'm set on bags. Like I don't need more bags, especially bags I'm not going to use because mostly quarantine lockdown. It was just, here's an excuse to make a thing. Had a blast making it, and people had a blast watching it.
It made me want to reach out to you and just catch up with you because, like we said, we met when we were in a different time, back before the world shut down. And like, it was interesting to watch from my perspective. And there was a couple takeaways I had. And one being that, wow, it's kind of cool what Erik did with this time, but it's also like sombering that he had to be, quarantined away. And it was like you reaching, I mean, I'm kind of maybe getting a little philosophical, but it was like you reaching out to the community and being like, I want to be there. I want to be riding my bike and I want to be out there and I want to be back in the world and I want to, be doing all this. And like, that's what I felt. And like, it made me feel for you and I guess everybody else. And I mean, it's just like, it was kind of a little bit sad and a little bit beautiful at the same time. Does that make sense?
I said something early on when I first posted it. I hadn't been so emotional or cried so much in like 24 hours as the first 24 hours after putting that video up, because I got hundreds of messages, like DMs and emails on top of the comments on the video, like people direct being like, hey, I don't feel, comfortable posting this as a comment, but I just got to say, like, and then everything you just said. They're feeling super insane because they're either like in a much worse living situation or a different country that's more locked down. They wish they could go bike pack too. And like inspired by Studio Ghibli movies because the beautiful scenes that these films contain, and putting myself in them. I don't know, I guess people living vicariously through me, living vicariously through it's like 3 levels removed, but somehow still so effective. And yeah, it just meant so much that it meant so much to so many people.
Well, I mean, you can tell that you like put your heart and soul into it, like it had the feeling that you like cared, and again, it's like this product of like this, like, I don't know, cool guy who's just kind of quarantined and like trying not to go mad and finding projects and ways to still be part of the bike packing community. And like, like it was really well done. And I didn't cry. I'm not much of a crier. Not that, but I shouldn't say that. I mean, I'm not trying to be tough. But I was emotionally moved by it, like for real. And like, I was like, dude, I want to talk to Erik. Like, I just want to like reach out and talk. And I mean, part of it was like, yeah, I just want to reach out and talk. And then the other part was like, really, like, how the fuck did you do that? And I that's a legit question. So I'm kind of curious, like I mean, yeah, what is your background that allows you to do that? And you said you learned a lot. So how hard was it to actually like make it? Because from my perspective, again, being well done, it looks like it was hard to make.
Diving into my history a little bit, I went to Savannah College of Art and Design for graphic design, have a minor in photography. Since living in Austin, I've done design work for hundreds of startups and some bigger clients, smaller clients. And a lot of that is social content, stuff for social media. And as I'm sure you've noticed, stuff that moves gets more clicks and more eyeballs. GIFs, TikToks, Vines, when that was a thing, right? Stuff with little effects added on. And so my day-to-day tasks at these different jobs would be, making animations using After Effects and Adobe Premiere. So I have the background as a motion graphics designer, which allowed me to approach this with the like, okay, if I need to put myself into this scene, how do I separate the scene, right? There's a foreground, a midground where I'm going to be, and then the background, right? Like, okay, put the foreground on a different layer, film me on the green screen, key out the green screen and After Effects, put me in there, try and get the size kind of right. I don't know, most people can get the idea of how Photoshop works. You move stuff around, make it bigger, smaller, paint out, eraser tool stuff you don't want. This is exactly like that, just over time, right? A lot of it is frame by frame, which you can see in the couple behind the scenes clips that I put up, like when I would draw the path around the car as it crosses in front of me, right?
Yeah, that's cool. That's what that was neat is all the attention to detail, your friend holding the fan, and I mean, you had to get the speed right and ring the bell at the dog that barks at you. And I mean, there was a lot of little like, details that you put in. It wasn't just thrown together,
I got to give a lot of credit to Allison helping out, which again, as a project in lockdown when people are going insane and being able to do work with another real life human being, we're both pretty immunodeficient and don't trust anybody, right? I don't trust anybody to be as safe as I'm being, but thankfully we trust each other, and really came back together for this project. And like, fan, her idea. Ringing the bell at the dog, her idea. Like, a lot of the little details is when we're reviewing the footage, and she would be like, can you do this with the thing? And I'd be like, I bet I can. And then that's when I would learn how to do whatever. Don't think I gave her enough credit for support, because like
I mean on Instagram you did. I know on Instagram you did. Well, I mean, I think you just did. I was gonna say it's nice that like you're giving her props, much due props, and like the truth is, I mean, I think a lot of times we're better together when we have like you have a creative that's going in a direction, or you have a vision, but then outside perspective is always valuable.
Absolutely.
So
yeah, absolutely.
Shout out to Allison. Couldn't do it without her.
Yeah, it would have been a many months longer project, pain in the ass, because like, again, I'm riding on rollers, like me holding onto the stool to start, it's all squiggly because I got panniers on my bike. Like, riding on rollers is easy, but like on a low trail panniered up bike with mustache bars, all this fucking weird position, and then like I start riding, she would grab the stool out of the way, hit record, make sure I'm in frame, in focus, all the sort of stuff. Yeah, super, super helpful. Like, completely invaluable to the project, for sure.
Do you have any sense how many hours you had into that project?
The project, I guess I picked this large of a scope because right when it started, I was between jobs, didn't have any clients. I've been freelancing for the last year, right? Which hit or miss. Sometimes months are good, most months are bad. And I was like, look, if I don't get any more clients, here's a huge project to throw myself at. Turns out 2 days later, got a big client giving me, full 8-hour days. So the project went from
this?
No, like related to like other design stuff I've done.
Coincidence.
Okay. And ended up like, all right, I do a full 8 to 10 hour day of, graphics work, then film this at night for a couple hours and then check the footage. Okay, the lighting on this one's bad, redo it the next day. I think the first week was filming, had my shot list. Okay, here's 3 from this side, 4 from this kind of front angle, 1's a little higher up. It's just me turning my body on the green screen, making it look like the camera's in different positions. Camera's always in the same spot because like the green screen doesn't move, but I can move on the green screen. That's part of the magic of it. Filming everything probably took a week. Putting myself into the clips probably took another week. And this is again like 2 to 3 hours every night. Final ordering to like try and tell some part of a story. It starts off with me packing the bag, and then we're riding through kind of city scenes, and it sort of transitions to more country roads, and then it's night, and then the campsite. There's a solid 5 minutes of clips that I have saved that I could make a whole nother video with, right? Which I might do someday. So like assembly took another day, and then doing the sound design for everything took a good 2 to 3 days, like full weekend of work plus another couple nights. Every sound you hear in the video is I dropped in. The music, all the sound effects, the cars, the bike noises, everything. Like dog barking. I had to go find a clip of a dog barking and time it right when the dog barks, right? And it just all came together. There were a good few days where like it was done, quote unquote. So let it sit, take a break from it, come back and visit it. Maybe you see other errors you didn't, the first time around. Show a couple friends.
So you finished it and then you paused
always
and came back to it a few days later. Tell me about that. You said always. What does that mean?
Whenever working on something this quote unquote big, whether it's for a client or again, this is just a project for myself, right? There's no if I miss the deadline or fuck it up, there's no punishment. But I cared about it, and like Allison cared about it too. So you just give it a few days. And maybe during those few days, you're making your morning coffee and you think of something to add. Or you're like, man, that clip where like the car does this thing, I'm too small in the scene, so we can take that one out, and kind of doesn't line up with the story. Again, deadlines aside, when you have the time to step away from stuff like this, just give the brain a good relax. I find it always helps.
I think that's smart, man. I think that's really smart. Yeah, it's like you finish it and then you like sit with it. Yeah. Well, you're a professional, so that I'm picking.
Because otherwise, like, you finish the video, instantly upload it, and then 2 days later, someone in the comments is like, "Hey, you cut your arm off in this one scene because it overlapped the whatever," and you're like, fuck, I have to go back and edit that. Like, that's what so giving it the couple days.
Did anybody
helps.
else know besides Allison outside that you were working on this? Like, were you sending it to people to get outside perspectives and, hey, did I miss anything and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, there are a couple. I mean, like, most of my friends are internet friends. Most of my art school friends I'm still friends with online. And yeah, we bounce projects off each other, whether it's like brainstorming concepts or, hey, here's an edit, be brutally honest. And someone was like, yo, you don't need this end 30 seconds extra bit. And I was like, shit, they're right. Like, I worked hard on it, but the viewer doesn't know my reason for putting it in. They're just watching it as, here's a full piece of work. And yeah, we have, I don't know, I imagine you have it for the stuff you work on, right? We have a bias towards the things that we make. And it's tough for us to criticize ourselves a lot of the time.
Yeah. And I have a group that I shoot things to all the time, like, I don't know why people listen to this podcast, like, I need other people to tell me, and like, it's like I said, it's always good to get outside perspective, on anything that you're doing. I'm creating a new website right now. I should probably send it to you actually, now that we're thinking about it. I should definitely send it to you, but I'm about to roll out a new website. And so, like, I have a podcast that's maybe in the creative space, but I am not a creative person. I've always been in like the business world, and it's more about getting deals done.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, it's tough to define oneself as what they are outside of this is my job, right? Well, when you're meeting someone for the first time, right, at a bar, when that was a thing, like, what do you do? People always answer with, oh, I'm a computer programmer, or I'm a sales this, or I'm a VP of whatever, rather than actually saying what they do, right?
Yeah, I try to get away from that.
You're still selling houses, real estate, nonsense, sales, like, but that's not what you are. You are a creative person for sure, even if it's just audio. Like, the amount of work and passion you put into this thing that we're making now together, as well as like, dude, you just making routes and putting them on bikepacking, like, that's creative work as well. Also, you're a photographer, you take pictures, that counts. Like,
sure,
we don't need to limit, like, pull back on like, oh, I'm not creative because of this.
I think you have a valid point, and I appreciate it. I think, I can fall in the trap as easily as anybody else. Is like, oh man, I wish I was creative in this space, and I don't have an eye for design, the way somebody else might, or whatever. And so, yeah, I can like say, oh, well, I'm not that creative, but okay, well, I'll take it.
Just don't be
again.
So hard on
I'm all
yourself.
about outside perspective, so. You have to understand, I'm a 40-year-old guy who has lived my whole life kind of thinking that I wanted to be on this. Well, I was on the standard American life plan, not the standard American diet. I was on the standard American life. I want the house, the kid, the job, the wife, the backyard with the picket fence, And I was on that path for, the majority of my life. And thankfully in the last, whatever odd years, I've kind of, opened my eyes to a whole nother reality and started to explore that. But I'm still figuring it out. So it's always good to get feedback all about it.
I don't think it's ever, again, quote, too late to change, especially in this way. Like, 40 or 45 or 60, whatever the hell, like, you can be inspired by something and want to take up a new hobby, right? You're inspiring people by having these conversations with far more adventurous folk than me, but also like the work you do with bikepacking.com and your Instagram and just the stuff you're doing around your town, right? You for sure have inspired somebody to do an amazing thing who would not have done that amazing thing without you existing, right? I can guarantee that has happened. And I imagine maybe my work, either the photos or the silly GIFs or this video that I made has done the same for somebody. And again, that's not saying like that's what makes a creative person a quote creative person or not. But it is a reason to, let's make stuff for the sake of making stuff, whether it's a bikepacking route or a review of some handlebar or you playing around with different configurations of your single speed, right? You're inspiring people like, fuck it, put drop bars on a mountain bike, like, dude, the first time I saw your Chumba, I was like, this bike is awesome. Like, what the fuck? Yeah. Inspiring, right? Like, let's get more people making stuff.
I blew minds with the Chumba. That was fun. To me, like that Chumba always wanted drop bars. And I know that goes against, Vince, but like it's my bike. As soon as I bought it, it became mine. And it wanted drop bars for me. And it still has drop bars. It's gone through 4 or 5 different sets of bars now, but that's part of the fun. But yeah, I mean, to your point about being a creative person, I live my life going a direction for a long ways, and I kind of like had my eyes open to this whole other way of living. And yeah, I want to be a voice for that. And I know, I mean, just through messages and people that I communicate with that I mean, thousands of people listen to this shit, like they hear it and they make decisions based on it. Maybe not 100% decisions, but they're, some of them are inspired to go and do things. I mean, I get messages all the time about people who actually the name of Bikes or Death has been very beneficial because it's not bikepacking specific, although that's where I live. I love the outdoors and getting on a bike and getting away from people, but it's allowed me to reach a whole new audience of cyclists who Bikes or Death. Oh, what is this? It could be a roadie or, a commuter that messages me and be like, dude, I didn't even know about this. I didn't know about people who were doing it, and they go on their first overnighter, it's like, that's crazy. So
absolutely. Yep. Absolutely right. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I appreciate it. I don't take a compliment too well, but I was actually just recording the episode I just released today with Chris Burkard. We talked about compliments and being able to accept a compliment is kind of like a sign of maturity. It's like, it's okay to like say, yes, you've done something. It goes into like kind of a negative space when you're like dwelling on that. And like, that's the whole point is like, I'm the man and I do shit and my numbers are so good, but it's okay. If someone gives you a compliment, you say, thank you, I appreciate it. And
especially because like you saying that to yourself, ties into like imposter syndrome or whatever delineation of that is. But like, when someone else says it, there's a much higher chance, like, they're being honest. Like, because, like, it takes a lot of courage to just approach somebody and say that. Whether it's on Instagram or via email or, like, in real life, talking to you or, like, talking to other people on rides. Like, hey, I saw this thing you did. It was fucking sick. That takes a lot of courage. So you should always be, like, welcoming of, again, compliments as a form of feedback. Like, welcome the feedback. Like, it will make you better for it, whether it's positive compliments or, constructive, negative criticism.
Actually, I think that's very well said and good advice. Like, you have to equally and without bias accept the good and the bad. Like, if somebody is going out of their way to tell you, hey, like, I called you up and I'm like, well, I didn't call you up. I DM'd you up on Instagram. Let's be honest. I don't call anybody anymore. I don't have I do have your number. I'm never going to call you though.
Like reaching out. Just reached out. Like said, hey, I'm a fan of what you're doing. And like, obviously we travel in the same spaces. Like, let's fucking do a thing.
Yeah. Let's talk. Yeah. I mean, and to circle back around to you, which is the point of this podcast, God damn it, is your film was really well fucking done, and I'm sorry I didn't cry. I'm gonna watch it again. I'm gonna try to cry.
As long as you feel a little something. You don't have to cry. Just feel a little something,
dude. No, I felt you, man. Like for real. Like I met you that one time. I know I don't know, man. I mean, you're just like the cool thing about bikes is that it brings together this great conglomerate, I don't even know, of unique and really interesting people.
Yep.
And I love them all equally. And you're in that group, you know, like you're the guy who is like, I'm just going to ride my bike 135 miles. I don't give a shit if I have fucking diabetes. I'm going to play Pokemon Go the whole way, you know, like, you know, and then I don't know. I love this community. I love, you know, you're a part of it. And as much as I hate that you're on lockdown and in quarantine, there was something, again, beautiful and also kind of sombering about that video. And for you to be able to bring out like both of those emotions at the same time was like kind of profound. Like I could feel you in that video. Like I could feel your effort. I could feel your passion. I could feel your longing to be back in society and being like riding your bike like a normal person. And I think so many people probably had that same reaction.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah. And if like things were normal and maybe they did the same contest, but everybody could go out, I might have tried to make some video of like the squad riding to the campsite and edit it to some other lo-fi soundtrack, but like it wouldn't have been this. This is a perfect example of, you know, not everyone has to like learn some new 17 languages or write the new American bestseller novel or, you know, amazing things in lockdown, right? As long as you're alive and you're not harming other people, like A+ job. But this is definitely an example of like was inspired by the limitations that I have. And I'm glad for it.
Beautiful and sombering at the same time. All right. Well, I want to, we got a lot of questions from Instagram. I sifted through.
Got all the nonsense up there.
I sifted through quite a bit.
I'm calling out Benny for sending in like 17.
Was Benny the one that wanted you to call him?
Probably.
I think Benny was like, why won't you return my call? So let's start with that. I wanted to end with a rapid fire Instagram question and answer session. So let's start with Benny. Why aren't you returning Benny's calls?
I don't think Benny has my phone number. So Benny, it's because you ain't calling me, dude.
Benny.
That's
Benny,
why.
send him your fucking number and then he'll call you or not. Then he'll have the option. All right. Favorite piece of flair that is non-useful?
This is the like favorite bike thing that's not on my tracklacross bike. There is a ribbon hanging from the saddle that says second place, and it is from a science fair in 4th grade. And I believe the project that I made was a clay model of a pickup truck that had a sliding rear door, like a van, but it was on a pickup truck. And for whatever reason, I got second place, and that is now hanging on the saddle of my tracklacross bike.
Did your parents help you with that project?
I don't think so. I mean, other than like buying the clay for me or whatever, I don't know, like we owned a truck. My parents have always had like, you know, Ford F-150s or whatever. So I probably just sat in the driveway and was like modeling it.
Wow.
Yeah, second place.
Okay. My daughter is in 5th grade now, and I'm thinking that's outside of, like, she would be wanting me to help her.
I mean, honestly, they might have. It was forever ago. I have no idea.
Who knows? Favorite bike you've owned? That's like almost not a fair question, but do you have one?
Yeah, it's definitely not a fair question. Currently in my apartment, there are 13, probably like 13 and a half. If we count the womb balance bike, which I'm saving for my niece, and we count the Decordy that I got from Deluxe, which is just art, not a rideable thing. I think there's like 13. Yeah. Favorites. It varies on the day. The most like getting the juices flowing, like turning you on sort of bike is probably the Tracklacross, which is my All City Zona, the red, white, and blue paint. Got some dumb wide riser bars on it. Whatever beefy wheel set. Got it super cheap off Craigslist. I think the better question is like, what's the most enjoyment per dollar spent? I have very expensive bikes. This one I got for $500 off Craigslist, right? It is by far the most return of fun that I have got for dollars spent, right? I'm not going to ride it to College Station and then, you know, another 100 miles on a bike camping trip. But when I'm just dorking around town doing skids in like puddles or like hopping curbs and single track, like, yeah, the return on money spent is for sure much trackle cross bike. Yeah.
Is that the one on your Instagram where you have like a big, it's like 6 pictures to combine to make one picture?
Yeah, it's just the red, white, and blue. I shot that panorama at Memorial Park in Houston after like a really rainy day. Super muddy. The bike's like dirty and it looks gross, and it's the perfect setting for it. Yeah.
You know, it's funny. I was reflecting about my own Salsa Fargo single speed. I just threw some 55 centimeter Walmart bars on there. It's completely ridiculous.
Those are so
like
good.
but it's so much fun to ride, man.
Yeah.
Like if you're talking about just getting on a bike and having fun and not worrying about anything else, but having a good time, like that's the bike
It's
I'm
like,
hopping
can't
on.
help but
100%.
smile. Right. And I think the most example of that I've ever felt is riding a fat bike on a beach in Florida, where you just feel like an idiot, like ramping off of sand dunes. And you can like, we're talking like 4.5-inch tires with like 3 pounds in them, right? Just like the most giggles me as a early 30s-year-old has ever admitted is riding a fat bike on a beach in Florida, for sure. Like, but that's like why we do these things, right? You hop on that and you're like, oh, hell yeah. Like these silly wide bars. I'm going to go cruise around. Makes you smile. Makes you happy. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the Bikes or Death ethos, man. It's like, it doesn't matter what bike it is, what you're doing. I mean, the point is having fun, having a good time. If you're not doing that, what the fuck are you doing? Get off of my screen. All right. Wait, before we move off of bikes, I actually had 2 more bike questions.
Do it.
What was the bike you rode to my house? Was that a Moose?
No, it was titanium. That was my Bear Claw Thunderhawk.
Bear Claw. Oh, that's such a good bike.
Yeah. Which even better, I bought it from them in Michigan. Right. I was up there vacationing, visiting family. It's where my family is. It's where I grew up. And I was like not really liking my current, gravelly monster cross off-road bike, had heard of them, had done the research, decided this was my next, remembered like, hey, they're in Traverse City. That's like a 200-mile detour and then back. I'm like, I'll just go buy it in person. And like that, meeting the dudes behind the company and the shop they're at and like seeing where they ride. Yeah. Love that bike.
Did you meet the owner?
Yeah. Met the owner. I test rode.
I've been told I need to like interview him.
Honestly, that'd probably be a good talk as far as like an inside industry point of view, somebody starting a bike brand and running a bike brand. And I don't even know what questions you would ask, but like getting that point of view. Yeah.
Well, and plus his bikes are unique. Like what the Bear Claw is.
Full tie. I went with the titanium fork, which it looks crazy. Like has clearance for, I think 27.5 by like 2.6 or maybe 3. And you can run 29 by I think 2.3 or 4. Like you can put dumb huge tires on this bike and like drop bars. I have a set of titanium drop bars from Black Sheep, which are like 6'10" wide, super wide. I have a titanium LD stem from Crust, like titanium post, like full tie. It's definitely I can ride this around the corner playing Pokemon, or I can ride it 200 miles in a day. Fully comfortable, dyno
monster
hub,
cross,
any kind of terrain, no matter what gravel I'm going to be into. Somehow I managed to pack 4 days of stuff on it when I went to your place. Like that was the longest, I guess, away from home trip I had done at that point, right? I've done overnighters before, but that was the first one where it's, we're going to be gone for more days. How do I change the setup? Yeah, worked fine. Highly recommend Bear Claw. I think the Bo Jackson might be a little cooler because you can fit even more in there. But
the Bo Jackson, I that's how I first became introduced to them, is through the Bo Jackson. When Miles Arbor came down, he was doing a review on it, on the Bo Jackson. And so we did the restaurant tour loop for bikepacking.com when he had that bike. And so I got to ride it and stuff. I'm like, this thing is just cool. Like I think that is what inspired the Chumba.
Oh yeah.
Which was like making it like more of this monster cross, do anything, go anywhere, drop bar, mountain bike, kind of funky looking thing. Yeah. I think that bike was the one that kind of like put that idea in my mind.
Yeah, it's more about like being ready for whatever shows up, which you on the Chumba for sure. Me, depending on the wheel set, I have a 27.5 wheel set that I throw on if like I'm doing quote proper mountain biking on my Thunderhawk. But like, yeah, with 48s, like I'm not gonna. Oh no, this road's too rough. I have to turn around. Like, no, do whatever. Same on the Chumba, same on the Bo Jackson. Like, I don't know. Having bikes that can do that is like, I'm way more or less interested in a 14-pound carbon fiber roadie, something like that. No shade against people that do, because, you know, bike brands need to make different stuff.
You're on Team Bike?
Yeah, you're on Team Bike. Yeah, I like bigger rubber, being able to ride whatever. Yeah.
There's a lot of humans in this world. We get to ride whatever
Yes.
bikes we want to ride. And I'm with you. Like, I want a bike. I like bikes that can do anything. You can hop on it. It has bags. You can throw shit in there and you can just get it and go. Like, to me, that's like the ultimate.
Agree.
Your tandem that you had for sale, did it ever sell?
Nope. Has not sold.
Oh my gosh. Listen, people, go to his Instagram.
That's the thing, though.
If it was my size, I would own that bike. If it was my size, I would own it. Go to his Instagram.
Yeah, that's the thing, though. Like, again, I don't know, inside baseball, like Alison and I split up halfway through February, right before lockdown. Super bad timing. And then reconnected months later and then made the Ghibli project together, right? You know? Fuck. Broken up and I gotta sell this tandem and put it up for sale. And I'm like trying to get friends to buy it and all that. Like, I just things in my house. Rah, rah, rah. And now it's like, I don't know. Who knows what the fuck's gonna happen in next year or the year after in terms of gestures wildly at everything. I for sure will never find another tandem as good as this one, right? Like, it's impossible. Even if I went to CoMotion and was like, hey, build me this, it wouldn't work, right? So it's like, it doesn't take up that much space. I'm not in a rush to sell. It's still up.
All right.
If the right person, if it fit you and I could see like a friend riding it, tight. Would love that. But otherwise, like, I don't want to sell it to some rando on eBay or Craigslist.
Well, you're a bike guy.
Yeah, I care about.
You're a bike guy. It's your bike.
Yeah.
Well, at least go check out the pictures because it's honestly probably one of the best looking tandems. It might be the best tandem I've ever seen. Like, it's so good.
It's a heck of a good thing.
It's so good.
Yeah.
All right. So we hit the bikes. Spandex instead of jorts. Somebody wanted to talk about
the transition.
That, and I don't even know, but hopefully you do.
So I guess we can do an overview of like, why bike? Like, why did I get into bikes? How did I get into this crazy stuff, right? So I grew up in Michigan, tried college up there, did a bad job of it, dropped out, did graphic design at community college, did a good job, applied to SCAD in Georgia, got in, moved to Georgia, didn't bring my car. This was like 2008, kind of early, sort of mid zone of the fixie, let's aero spoke, spray paint all of our stuff, do wheelies down the street, skids in parking garages phase, which, like, full admittance, like, I wore dad glasses. I had a big ass, like, curly mustache. Like, this V-neck I'm wearing right now, for some reason, might be from art school me, right? I was the full cliche art school hipster kid, fixed gear, spray paint, all the nonsense, right? But I lived in Georgia for 5 years without a car. Rode bike, get to the classes. Definitely got into tinkering with bikes. Oh, I like the stem on that one. Or like so-and-so got a new wheel and he's faster than me. You can go faster with better parts sometimes. And learning about compatibility and threaded versus threadless and old this versus new this. And like, why doesn't this square taper work on the blah, blah, blah. Super got into that, right? Graduated art school, moved to Austin, started riding my fixed gear bikes in Austin. Oh, surprise, surprise. Austin has hills. Savannah, Georgia, the flattest pancake you can imagine. Austin, my first apartment was on South Congress. Had to bike down to town and then back up South Congress at the end of the day. It took maybe 3 weeks before I was like, you do need some gears. Got an old road bike. Started doing group road bike rides. Did the Thursday night social ride for a bit. Then started doing Mellow Johnny's group rides. Again, still dad glasses, curly mustache, V-neck, cut-off jean shorts, like spiked belt with the hip pouch with the U-lock in it. on roadie group rides. I don't know how they let me
Nice.
up in their shit over time, right?
Only in Austin.
Dude, over time, hanging out after the rides, talking to them like, oh, why do you guys wear the spandex with the padded stuff? And they're like, what's the longest ride you've done? I'm like, I don't know, like 18 miles. They're like, oh, we're doing 63 miles tomorrow. You want to come along? And I'm like, okay, sure. Go on group ride, underwear, jeans, shorts, all the business just wrecked, right? Very next day after that, get some spandex, go on a ride, mind blown. This is why they do the thing. And then, cue the fast forward montage of that was probably 2014. I had like 3 bikes maybe, and now it's 2020 and there's 13 in here, and I've got a full closet full of spandex kit. I don't know, custom titanium stuff all over the place. Like, yeah, looking back on where I was, how I got into bikes, how I guess incredibly lucky I was to meet the people I did on the group rides that I did, and them not being, what the fuck is this art school kid trying to be a part of this, right? They fully could have gone like roadie elitism, like get out of our pace line. Where do you have like the 3-pound U-lock on your belt? Where do you like get out of here? But they're like, no, tuck in, dude. Like, this is how you do this. Be careful. Like, helped me be the sort of bike person that I am today. And like, I don't know, hopefully with whatever nonsense I'm putting on the internet, like I can help that. And like, you're obviously helping that with this work and introducing people to bike packing. That seems like such an easy route into bike, right? Into bikes or death, the whole mindset. Yeah. So that's the transition. Jean shorts to spandex. Yeah. Yeah.
One reason this is interesting to me is because you probably saw on Instagram, I did a poll because Miles just did that article in bikepacking.com about should you wear a diaper or not. And I've done, a lot of city riding with, just, jorts, whatever. But for bikepacking, I've never wanted to put away the padded shorts and the latex because longer rides. So as a matter of experiment, I bought the wool underwear that he recommended in bikepacking.com. Dude, I like wore them for a week straight without washing them.
As you should.
And I rode in them like every day, and just to see like how they would be. And it wasn't that bad. But again, this last weekend, whenever I did 35 miles was like the longest I've gone. So I need to like push it further. But I guess my question is, now that like you've been riding for a while, have you tried to go back to just like jorts and underwear?
Yeah.
And like, is your ass like tougher now?
I mean, like the ass is definitely tougher. It's gotta be, right? I don't know exactly what my mileage cutoff is. If it's like 42 miles or less, I'm gonna not worry about spandex, or more than that, whatever. Definitely depends on the bike. On my Crust Scapegoat, I'm not wearing spandex, right? It's a 29x3 with Jones bars, like the most Harley Davidson chill position. Like, I'm not wearing a kit on that bike. But also, I don't ride that bike more than like 25, 30 miles. If I was going to take that to South America, though, I don't know. I definitely like when I go do dumb Pokemon night rides, spandex. I like being comfortable. No shame.
Yeah.
I feel like some people probably got either very lucky or they have the experience of trying 100 different saddles to get the one that perfectly meshes with their bits. And thus they have more tolerance for not needing to wear the padded short, the quote diaper.
Right.
Yeah, I had no idea that like Lael, right, apparently doesn't wear spandex. She puts in like 20,000 miles a year or something. Like,
yeah, there's lots of them out there. When I did my poll on Instagram, there was like 200 people that responded. It was 50-50, like right on the nose, like 50. It was like 51-49 or something like
but
that.
Like that's like margin of error. Yeah, it boils down to whatever works for you.
That's exactly what I wanted to say.
If your bits get really red and angry when you wear underwear and shorts, probably don't do that. Because like, taking care of them is important. Whatever kind of genitals you have, like, you got to take care of that, right? if wearing spandex might make you feel a little silly, maybe look a little silly, but enables you to ride longer, finish a ride in a better mood because you're feeling better, and just be more comfortable when you're out, exploring, playing Pokemon Go or doing routes from bikepacking, right? If it enables you to do more bike stuff, then make that choice, right? That's how I feel about it.
Prioritize bikes for sure. I the only argument that I have, well, maybe not the only, there's a hygienic argument towards not wearing diapers, as I keep calling
we
them.
can call it that. It's fine. Yeah.
But I mean, I wear them all the time, so I mean, count me in. But there's a hygienic aspect of it, and then also like as I progress down this path, I like simplicity. I like just being able to hop on my bike and ride it. But again, we're talking about different kinds of riding. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna hop on the bike and go for a around the town ride or whatever, or am I getting kitted up and I'm going on a trip and all that kind of stuff? Do you want to get out, on this epic trip that you planned? You took off work, you're away from your family, whatever, and you have to call it because you were too prideful to wear a diaper.
Yeah. I mean,
it's personal preference.
Yeah, personal preference, but also like I get that the barrier to entry for spandex is there, right? Is more expensive than the shorts that you probably already own. My favorite bibs, I like Rafa, sorry. They're like $275 bibs. That is for sure out of the price range of most people that are like curious about this. Do not spend 200 or even like $150 on your first set of bibs. I love the black bibs. Not a sponsor of me or the podcast, I'm sure, but like in terms of like you're curious about this, try it out. Go get some of those. Or again, yeah, I've bought used bibs before. It's fine. Just wash them. Just wash them real good. Find some for like 30 to $50. Try it out. Go on your normal loop. And if you're feeling better afterwards, cool. Then maybe you like spandex.
Yeah. I think a personal preference. It's fun to play around with. I've been experimenting with it lately. When I saw that question, I was like, yeah, let's have some fun with this one. Okay. You ready for the next? Where do you see the bike industry heading? You look like a wizard.
Lordy. Yeah, no, it's gotten longer in lockdown.
You look like you could predict the future.
There's the both like hopeful and then like the realist side of it. Like realist side first, it will go wherever makes them money. Honestly, bike companies ain't gonna do shit if they're losing money. Bottom line, just apply that to any company straight up. The corporations, they like making money, right? If they're making stuff at a loss, they probably won't do it for very long, right? Hopeful, aspirational side. Everyone's seen the articles about bike shops. Like the floors are empty. It's hard to find a bike under $500, right? Everyone's getting into cycling, fresh air. Let's go out and explore and, not be stuck inside. Influenced by lockdown stuff. People trying to, I guess, find different ways of being fit because they can't go to gyms.
They're bored.
Yeah, fuck it. Like, I'm sick of being around maybe your significant other or your kids or whatever.
Yeah, your kids and your partners. You're like, I want to go.
And easiest way to do that, get a bike and noodle around. I'm really hopeful that if/when things go, air quotes, back to normal, a lot of people keep up with that, right? It would be really, really cool if shops continue having the same sort of business that they have right now. If people keep going to the shops, or if they find a shop that they like and they make a connection with that, you've got your LBS, right? Like I've got Cycleast is probably my favorite one in town. Like love the people there. I go there for all my shit. Hopefully people keep up with that. And then hopefully they start looking as riding a bike as something they can do instead of getting in a car. For, whatever, 75% of trips are shorter than 3 miles. I don't know the exact stat, but it's something like that. Like, if you've discovered that you can ride a bike around town for an hour, super chill on whatever you got, from the shop, maybe you're like, hey, I don't need to drive around the street to get my morning coffee, or I don't need to drive, across town to get to the dentist. Like, I can hop on the bike. Hopefully, maybe that, keeps up. And then future generations are also inspired by seeing their parents be more into bikes, and then so on and so forth, continuing down the line. I try not to get super into like end of the world depressing shit, but like climate change is real, y'all. Like we're going to see it in our lifetime. Like your kids are for sure going to see it in their lifetimes. There's a lot of things that are bad. Corporations are bad, but like cars are a pretty easy one to solve if more people for the short trips just hop on a bike or go for a walk. Yeah, that's where I hope the industry's heading. Yeah.
Amen. I've talked about that a few times on the podcast about this, and we talked about it today about this weird net benefit of COVID. I mean, your film being this one of them, but also like we are seeing a huge shift in the population towards outdoor recreation, cycling, running, all these things. And I mean, nobody knows the exact numbers and nobody can quantify it. We have to assume that, X percentage of them are going to stick with it, are going to find a healthier lifestyle, connected with a bike shop, like you said, and just fell in love with cycling. Like the reason why, and I'm just like ad-libbing here, but bike shops are sold out. And I mean, obviously there's supply issues, but people like riding bikes. Bikes are fun. And so when they're locked up in their house and they're sick of their family and Netflix has run out of shows that you're interested in watching and you're tired of doom scrolling the internet, what do? You go to your local bike shop and you're like, dude, I would just want to go and ride a fucking bike. That's all I want to do.
Like walking's too slow. Biking, I'm pretty sure it is proven with scientific papers, is the most efficient way to move an object, like move the human body, like energy put in versus the motion. Like you can go crazy distances on a bike with not a lot of, spend in terms of calories. But like, yeah, you're absolutely right. Get out and be away from the craziness that is inside and also be away from the craziness that is other people. Maybe explore your town on a bike. That's where I really hope the industry and honestly, like the whole world is going.
You learn so much about, you zoomed out to the whole world, and I agree. I mean, the more people that ride bikes, the more people who are exploring their towns, their cities, their outdoor spaces, on a bike, the more people are going to be advocating for that. And like when you ride your bike, like you go 30 miles in a city, you're seeing a lot of the city. You're going from the rich neighborhood to the poor neighborhood. You're seeing the different infrastructure.
Bike lanes to the no bike lanes. And that might get someone who hasn't seen that point of view, maybe just to use their turn signal more. Like, whoa, crazy.
Right.
But also maybe to like, next time they're voting, like look at the thing and be like, if there was a bike lane on this street, then me, a person who now rides a bike, could get to my kid's school with less risk of literally dying, right? The more people we have from this point of view will allow more people to support the sort of decisions that will lead to more people making more good decisions, and people who are in power, giving them more opportunity to better world, more bikes, less cars and pollution and things that are loud. I don't know. Yeah, more bikes, please.
More bikes, please. Listen, I mean, you're preaching to the choir. But that's the point of us talking, is to spread that word and that passion and that perspective and get people to go out and not just follow that Strava route and not just try to set a KOM or whatever, but to like really experience the world on a bicycle and have fun with it. Like we need more people that are just experiencing the world in that way. It can solve so many problems. I don't want to get political, but I do want to say, the world is so fucked up right now, right? And like we're so divided. There's one thing we agree on, is we're divided as a country, as a society. We are divided. And I've been thinking about this a lot, and obviously my role in the community of bikes. And one thing that I've kind of like grabbed onto recently, that's maybe just for my own personal hope and to not be like a pessimist, is to just realized that we need to focus more on the things that bring us together than the things that like separate us. And the cycling community has really been the best community I've ever been in, period, end of statement. It brings in a diversity of people who are so opening and willing to just like, I mean, everybody from like the roadies, like you talked about with your
Yeah.
bib experience, like this is a very welcoming community, and it's so diverse. It could be more diverse. I mean, this is a community we're working on for sure, but we as a community are actively working on it. You see the people, you see the steps taking place, you see things happening. So I don't know where I was going with that, but other than to say, I actually I do know where I was going with that. I wanted to just say that I love this community and I want to use it as a way to focus on something to bring us together, to focus on something that's positive, that can, not be an environmental impact, that can, give you social structure, a community to belong to that will be healthy for your mind and your body, and is practical and allows you to get from point A to point B. Like, bikes are death, baby.
Bikes is sustainable in a way that almost nothing else is, right? It can solve so many problems and opens up so many opportunities that, I don't know, it's a very unique activity, sport, art form, whatever you want to, categorize it as. It can be all those things, right? It can be all those things.
Well, come ye all, welcome to Team Bike. Hey man, it's good to have you on the team. I love the diversity that we get, and you're certainly part of it. And your film was just so inspiring. I'm just glad we got to talk. Like you said, like it feels good to just like reach out and talk, because it's so weird to meet somebody in person in the flesh and like hug them or give them a high five. And then it's like, oh fuck, I can't give Erik a hug right now. I can't, do that. But next time I see you, man, I'm going to give you a hug.
There's not a lot of things that like I save and revisit in terms of like photos or videos or like memorabilia. But the video that you shot of me first riding up to your house, when I got to your place on that first ride, it's you filming me and it's me rolling up, and I said something about like, I need to look up your address, but no, it's the house with the van and the 1990 whatever Toyota something, and like you're like, sup dude, it's good to see. It was what's like such a genuine moment. Like I probably watch that video like once or twice a month just because I'm like, Patrick, yes, someday.
Right on, brother. I feel the same way, man. It's been hard to like, I mean, I'm kind of using you as like almost like an example of like thousands of other people, who are hundreds of thousands or whatever. Like, it's just, it's been tough, but I'm trying to tie a happy bow on it. God damn it. I just want to tie a happy bow on it.
The happy bow is like, again, video inspired people, but you don't have to make some, fancy After Effects project that like, I have like an art school education and 8 years of video editing experience that enable me to make that. But like, fuck it. You can make a route in your town, or just go take a picture of your bike against some cool wall that you found. I don't know. Or try some new tires. You find some tires online, try them out on your bike, write a review about it. Let your friends know. Your friends see the review, they get inspired. Just more of this type of stuff. The hardest thing about all this is like, I don't know where my inspiration is going to come from tomorrow, right? That's the hardest part about being a, again, air quote, creative person. I don't know what's going to trigger some idea in my head for something that I'll make for some other video or photo project, right? That's the hardest part about it. But you have to be open to that arriving, whether it's movies you watch or podcasts that you listen to or friends you have. Surround yourself with things that are inspiring, no matter what it is, and hopefully that will compound on you then inspiring others. I think that's a pretty good bow.
The only thing I would add to that is people that inspire and push you. You know, like you need to be around people who are like are doing things differently or better or whatever. I mean, whatever you gravitate towards, but you got to put yourself among people who are willing to push you to be a better version of yourself.
Perfect way to say it.
Yeah. Let's move forward. Right on, homie. Well, I've said it already, but I mean, that's what I love about the community is the uniqueness of the people that comprise of it and make it a whole, and certainly appreciate your take on it. I mean, you add to the cycling community, no doubt about it. So I appreciate it. And thanks for coming on the Bikes or Death podcast.
Thanks for having me. Next time, whenever we can do this in person, because I hope you didn't forget, I still got to do that tattoo.
I was actually about to mention that. I was going to say the next time we do this. So here's the deal. Like we had planned to do a podcast and Eric was like, when we do it, I'm going to do a stick and poke tattoo on myself. So you still owe me.
You writing Bikes or Death on my body and then I tattoo it. Because like, obviously,
that's right.
I'm down with Bikes or Death for life. And having you write it, somewhere, probably on my legs because I can reach it easier. But like, yeah, I was going to do that during the show. I thought about like, hey, you write it on a piece of paper and send it and I'll do, but like, no, doesn't count. You have to write it. Has to be in person for it to count.
Yeah. I thought about it too. This isn't the time. We'll do it in person sometime, but that's for sure going to happen. Eric is going to be the first person that stick and pokes a tattoo on himself of the Bikes or Death during a show. That's happening. All right, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, bud.
Stay well. Good to talk to you, and hopefully we get to see each other in person, and I'm going to give you a hug.
Yeah, ride your damn bikes, y'all.
All right, peace out, homie. All right. I hope y'all enjoyed that out there in podcast land. I'm so happy to be doing this. Thank you for being here. This is a lot of fun. And speaking of fun, next week's episode is with Aaron Chamberlain, who just circumnavigated the border of Texas via bicycle. I think it took him 6 weeks, something like that. I don't remember. 58 days? It took him some days and some time, but he did it. And there's some dispute as to whether or not he was the first. So we talk about that. But yeah, met up with him in Austin just a couple days after he got done with that ride. And that episode is coming next week. And I didn't say it in the beginning. I keep forgetting the last few episodes. But if you could please go to iTunes and leave a 5-star review, it is big time, muy importante. It helps a ton in getting the show noticed and getting it out there so other people can be exposed to this hot fire content that we're putting out, at least trying to. So yeah, it means the moon and back. So if you could just take a moment, head over to iTunes, bobbity boop, hit the 5-star. You can say why it's great or not. Some people leave some beautiful messages on there. Actually, I wish I knew who left the reviews so I could like say thank you. But that's like the one thing where like I get messages and very nice, and I have no way of saying who it is and like reaching out to them. But I do read them, and y'all are lovely as always. Thank you. All right. Well, this was a very long episode. Sometimes I get windy. Sometimes I get talky. But, I just kind of go with however I'm feeling. Sometimes I'm more talkative than others. And sometimes, it just is what it is. So thanks for being here. It's a beautiful day outside. So I'm going to go ride my damn bike.
You load up your bike, you ride away from home. You could be with your friends or you could be alone. You ride for a day or maybe more. You just love being in the great outdoors. Everything you need is strapped to your bars, including that new pillow you got from Santa Claus. And then you think, oh shit, to yourself. You left that super lightweight tent on the living room shelf. Bikes.